right, so we're going to talk about deliverability today. So this is for like e-commerce brands who have a newsletter, and you want to, learn how to make sure you have good deliverability so you don't end up in the spam box. So whether you're just starting a list or you haven't sent emails in a while, email deliverability and your deliverability score is very important because it affects where you land in someone's inbox, whether that's like in the main inbox, the primary, the promotions, or in the spam. So what you'll learn in this video is why, blasting your full list after a break or even blasting your full list in general can be bad for your deliverability. How to gradually reintroduce your email sends to avoid going to the spam filter. The segmentation strategy that I use to isolate my engaged subscribers versus cold. And I say my, I mean the clients that I work for, not mine. I don't have an e-commerce brand. Um, and then some simple tweaks, to improve open rates and stuff like that. So this all matters. Why? Because if you haven't emailed in 2 to 3 months, and this is a situation I have with brand I'm working with right now, they sent somewhat consistent emails in the past, but they had not in a while when I had basically started working with them. And so when that happens, your deliverability score goes down pretty low, basically to zero. And so if I were to just send to the whole list right off the bat, my open rates would be pretty garbage, and I would get a bad deliverability score. So if yeah, and so if you do this for long enough, you can get your domain what is called blacklisted. So what that means is you can't come back. You send emails to someone and it's not going to show up in the primary and the promotions no matter what. You've been deemed a scammer, essentially. So there's two ways to build deliverability. And I have experience with both, but with the brand I'm working with now, we're doing the second one. But just so you know, the first one is to use the software. I would recommend SmartLead, which I've used in the past for a bunch of my my own domains for my business. So what you do is you connect your sending domain to the platform. The software or the platform sends realistic looking emails to other users on the platform. They engage with each other, reply to emails, stuff like that, to simulate real human behavior. And then over time, they will increase the amount of emails sent per day. And usually this takes about 4 weeks until the domain is fully warmed up. And so your goal is just to look like a legit sender to inbox providers and not like a spammer. So if you were to do this and then you were to send to your full list, you would probably end up in the primary, but there's a good chance you would still have, I guess, pretty low open rates because you could still have a bunch of people who are not engaged, but at least you would end up in the primary tab. The second way is to basically just naturally and gradually warm up the domain with your own list. So this, like I said, is what we're doing right now. So they have about a couple hundred subs, so it's a pretty small list. And like I said, they haven't emailed in a while. So this is kind of the step-by-step process of what I'm still in the process of doing. So what I did was they use Wix. So I created a segment just called Recently Engaged. You can call it whatever you want. And what I did to get the contacts in that list is I filtered for contacts who have engaged, opened or clicked in the last 3 months. And so normally when you're sending, on a regular basis, you want to be sending to your engaged list. And that engaged list is usually, once everything is fully warmed up, about 14 to 30 days. So this 3 months is pretty pushed out, but that's the last recently engaged subscribers that I can get my hands on. So I sent, I think it was 3 emails to them. Metrics were good, 100% deliverability, click through and open rates were all good. So then we moved on to step two. Step two was just gradually add in more contacts. So this is where we're at right now. So I created in Wix, you can create labels. So what I did is I went to the contacts. I filtered out people in the engaged list so they would not show up. And then I basically just chose a batch of contacts there that were deemed cold contacts because they haven't engaged with the brand in 4+ months, sometimes 6 months with some of them. Um, and I labeled them, I think, cold contacts for warm up. So now I had a batch of subscribers or contacts that have that label on them. I know those contacts with that label have not engaged with the brand in basically a long time. So the next group of emails I sent to the engaged list, and then I also sent to my new batch of colder contacts that have not engaged for a while. And so I basically doubled the sending volume from the previous week. All right. And then after we did that, we still got the metrics weren't as good, obviously, but still good enough to keep moving forward. So I think my open rate there was 44%, and you want to be above like 20 to 30. So we're still pretty good. That being said, I think a bunch of those cold contacts did not open. So, I mean, I think I got a few more into the engaged side, but not a ton. Um, so you basically do that. Just keep going, up and up, and I'll cover that in a second. But how much should you increase per week? So this is a small list. So what I've done so far is I've started at 80%, then 60, then 50, and it'll go to 25. And that percentage is of the um, contacts that you sent to the previous time. So if I sent to 50 contacts the first week, that's where we started out. Then 80% of 50 is, my math isn't good. What is it, 30 or whatever? Then you'd send an additional 30 on top of that 50. And so the next time you'd be sending 80. And so you kind of just keep doing that with a small list because you have so few. If you just started out small, it would kind of take forever to build up to be sending to your full list. But if you have a larger list, the general rule of thumb is increasing by 10 to 20% maximum. So going onward, I'm basically, like I said, going to keep doing that, keep building up until I've sorted all the contacts into they've either moved over to recently engaged or they're kind of in unengaged. And within the unengaged, you can have like two different unengaged groups. One that's like 30 days plus, and then one that's like 3 months plus. And those people on 3 months plus are eventually going to get kicked off because it's just going to ruin deliverability. And then anyone new who comes in and signs up the brand, obviously they're going to move to the engaged side as long as they open that first email from you. All right. So this, again, why this all matters is because if you land in the spam, your emails aren't getting seen. If your emails aren't getting seen, nobody's opening them and nobody's clicking through and nobody's buying anything. And you're not able to create those touch points that you need to with your contacts so that they eventually do make a purchase. So in a nutshell, that's how all that works. So a few side notes. So like I mentioned, I'm working in Wix right now with this brand, and the segmentation and the tagging is all different between different platforms. Klaviyo, I know, is the gold standard, and they do things a bit differently. I think it's a lot easier, actually. Um, so in Wix, like I said, I manually tagged all the cold contacts, and so then like a day or two after sending, I go in, I see who's engaged, I unlabel them so that nobody is being double sent emails, and all my metrics and attribution are correct. Um, so if you have to do that, if you end up manually labeling or tagging like I am, just make sure you remove the tags or have it set up so it automatically removes the tags once they move over to your engaged side. All right. So, and then these are just a few metrics to watch for with your as you're going through. So if you were to do what I'm doing and you're increasing slowly, and you see your open rate dip below 20%, you might just want to halt there for a little bit until either it moves up or you just remove those people who are not opening and then move on to your next group of cold contacts to add in. Because if they're not opening, then they're not opening and they're not going to, you can play around with your subject lines and your copy and all that, but there's some people who are just maybe they don't use the email anymore, or they're not interested in your products anymore, and they're not going to open no matter what. So just unsubscribe them, because it's just going to bring down all your metrics and your deliverability, and your click-through rate and your spam complaint rate. So that's all you need to know. If you want help or have any questions about doing this with your own brand, so you can retain more customers and bring in more money ultimately, you can book a call on my website here, and I'd be happy to help. So leave any comments or questions down below as well. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.